Hello, welcome to the first installment of Fedora Fiction Press video. Today we will be reading from my most recent novel, Menace in the Goldilocks Zone. And we will begin with chapter 1. The idea is that we'll be reading, I'll be posting a video of me reading the chapter about once a week. The untold want by life and land ne'er granted, now voyager, sail thou forth to seek and find. Walt Whitman, The Untold Want. Chapter 1, The Goldilocks Zone. Picture, if you will, a solar system. Now picture the centerpiece of this solar system as a large yellow star. Now, from one perspective, all stars are large. Even the so-called white dwarfs are massive objects compared with something as small as a planet. No, this star is large even by stellar standards, especially by yellow stellar standards. It is yellow because it is young, a big, goofy kid of a star. Picture this goofy kid as having accessories. A bunch of planets all orbiting the star in roughly the same plane. Now this star is really tricked out as it has 19 planets moving around it in more or less elliptical paths. 5 of these are massive gas giants lurking in the outer orbits, 3 of which have spectacular rings. These guys act as the solar system's bouncers, keeping cosmic riffraff out of the system with their massive gravitational fields and enormous bulk. 3 smaller planets, just chunks of rock and frozen chemicals, hang out a little further, trying to suck up to the gas giants by letting them know when some punk of an asteroid was trying to sneak through. 3 other planets are much closer to the star, so close that they are little more than seething cauldrons of molten elements and gas. One is so close and orbits so quickly that its day is actually longer than its year, and its years are definitely numbered. Now, as unlikely as all that is, there's something even more unlikely about the remaining 7 planets. Not only are they all composed of rock, gas, and water, not only do they have molten cores of iron surrounding a solid subcore of iron, giving them magnetic fields, not only do they all have ample supplies of oxygen, carbon, hydrogen, and nitrogen, they all orbit in that magical distance from the star known to astronomers as the Goldilocks Zone. Now you may know Goldilocks as the juvenile delinquent who, according to a folktale, broke into a house and passed judgment on the furnishings and cuisine she found there. Things were either too hard, too soft, too hot, too cold, too retro, too kitsch, etc. But some things she famously deemed just right. So a star's Goldilocks zone is that distance from the star that is neither too close to be too hot, nor too far as to be too cold, but just right for complex and relatively intelligent life to develop. And develop it did. 5 of the 7 planets in this zone are known to have produced life capable of forming something resembling civilizations. In another wild cosmic coincidence, these civilizations appeared to have developed at almost the same pace. And though each of these civilizations embraced different technological emphases, all developed the sophistication to appreciate the technologies as such, not supernatural powers or magical abilities. Now, you cannot be blamed for thinking that this situation appears awfully contrived, as if some ethically challenged PhD somewhere cooked up this solar system as a research project. Many scholars on the planets in question have made the same observation, although noting that such a research project would take a boatload of grant money and more graduate students than one could conceive of to execute. The notion of an omnipotent, omniscient being having constructed their solar system had been long entertained, but few give either explanation much credence. Most people, for want of a better word, on these planets simply accept that the universe is a big place, and anything that is remotely possible probably will occur sometime, someplace. It is even possible, some suppose, that some civilization somewhere and or sometime could develop technologies that messed with the planet's ecology so much that it rendered a planet uninhabitable, or whose people would turn on one another for no other reason than minor differences in skin color, language, or cosmology. Scenarios that most who concern themselves with such things consider absurd, and few think more than very remotely possible. Our story begins on one of these 5 Goldilockian planets, although one should note that none of the planets in question are called Goldilocks. It's just a turn of phrase. Indeed, the planet in question is known as Cerulia, and its inhabitants as Ceruleans. The inhabitants, of course, do not call their planet Cerulia, or themselves Ceruleans. They call themselves people, and their planet water, which is how their name for their planet translates into English. This is probably because 90% of the planet's surface is covered by water, the remaining 10% being a string of archipelagos along the equator. This gives the planet a distinct blue appearance when viewed from a distance, hence the moniker Cerulia. The Ceruleans themselves, however, are not blue, at least not most of the time. They are in fact many colors, depending on what they are doing or what they are saying. Now, if you're reading this, you'd see that I put saying in quotes because Ceruleans don't, strictly speaking, speak. This is probably because, and I'm going way out on a limb here, they don't have lungs or vocal cords. And even if they did, it wouldn't matter because they don't have ears either. What they do have are two very good eyes and exquisitely sensitive skins. They also have gills, 4 legs, and 4 arms, and shells, and, well, perhaps I should describe them this way. Imagine a cross between a crab and a squid. The bottom half is crab-like, with 4 jointed legs and a kind of carapace encased abdomen and pelvis, which, by the way, encases their gills. And the top half, a squid-like face and 4 jointed arms with tentacle-like fingers at the ends of them attached to a shell-enclosed thorax. 2 bright and alert mobile eyes capable of independent movement are perched on a head, or more properly speaking, a mantle, whose only other notable feature is a circular mouth demurely covered with a brush of fine, mobile tentacles. Cerulean eyes are capable of discerning 100 million different colors. Just for comparison, human eyes can discern 10 million. The skin on a cerulean mantle can display, well, no one's actually counted the colors, so let's just say that a cerulean mantle can display lots and lots of colors. And this indeed is how ceruleans communicate with each other, by displaying a series of colors, tints, and hues that convey thoughts, emotions, and ideas. Even the most casual conversation between 2 ceruleans is an astonishing and captivating sight to an outsider with color vision. This has several implications. One more academic implication is that ceruleans make no distinction between art and literature. The Cerulean epic, whose title translates most inadequately as existence, fits on a canvas the size of a sheet of notebook paper, but is a composition of shimmering hues mesmerizing even to a non-cerulean. The natives, however, have been known to contemplate this work for hours, their mantles displaying intense colors, reflecting, one presumes, the intense emotions evoked by the work. A more practical implication, however, is that this makes face-to-face communication between ceruleans and outsiders awkward, to say the least. Devices exist to facilitate such interactions, but the cerulean language is so subtle, and translations from other languages are so blunt, that outsiders come off as inarticulate simpletons, and ceruleans, as their language is translated, come off as supercilious and condescending prats. For this and other reasons, face-to-face interactions between ceruleans and the people from other planets are rare and only undertaken out of necessity. Well, chapter 1 is a brief chapter. Probably suits as a good introduction. We will be back next week with chapter 2, The Secret. Thanks for watching.